Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly captivating and honestly pretty heartbreaking mystery from our source material. So picture this. There's an older woman named Grace, and every single morning at exactly 9 o'clock, she walks to her local post office. She's always wearing the exact same blue sweater, the same old shoes, the shopkeepers smile at her, kids wave as she walks by. Everyone in the neighborhood knows her. We're exploring a profoundly moving story today called The Silent Apology of the Unsent Letter. There's this quiet, burning mystery right at the center of Grace's daily walk, and as you'll see, it holds a lesson that literally ended up changing an entire town.
So what does this all mean? The biggest question is, why didn't she just mail it? It's the puzzle that completely defines Grace's strange daily routine. You see, she'd walk in, she'd stand so patiently in line, and she'd finally make it up to the counter. But then, she would just look down at her hands, quietly turn right back around, and walk all the way home. She never spoke to the clerks, she never bought a single stamp, she just went through the exact motions of mailing something, only to freeze up and stop at the very last second.
And the crazy thing is, this entire daily trip revolved around one single thing, just one white envelope. It's such a simple, everyday object, right? Yet the suspense built around it is just incredible. This one envelope was the absolute center of her universe every morning. She carried it with her, she'd hold it right up to the counter, but she just could not bring herself to hand it over to the postal workers. It was like this heavy physical burden she just couldn't let go of.
Now, to truly wrap your head around the weight of this, consider the number 3. She repeated this exact, silent, mysterious ritual every single day for nearly 3 years. No way, right? Think about the sheer dedication, or honestly, the absolute emotional weight it takes to do that. For over 1,000 days, she walked up to that counter and then walked away. Naturally, the folks in town and the post office workers started reacting to this 3-year routine with their own theories. Because, well, when people don't understand something, they try to fill in the blanks. Some of the workers just thought she was forgotten and lonely, maybe just looking for some kind of structure or a brief moment of human connection. On the flip side, some actually kind of laughed it off, assuming she'd just lost her memory and was completely confused, just living the exact same day on repeat without realizing it.
Section 1. The Connection. Okay, let's dive into this. One Monday morning, the dynamic completely changes. A new guy named Ethan starts working at the post office. Unlike the other clerks who were just completely used to Grace and had basically written her off, Ethan actually pays attention. He watches her walk away and decides, you know what, he can't just stand there and watch her leave anymore.
The very next morning, Ethan makes a move. He waits outside to greet her before she even steps foot inside. He just gives her a warm good morning and asks if there's anything he can help her with. Grace looks down at the envelope in her hands, and she asks him this incredibly heartbreaking, profound question. She says, "Do you think some letters are too late?" Ethan is just completely stunned. He doesn't even know what to say. She just gives this gentle smile, walks inside, does her usual routine, and heads back home.
But Ethan, he absolutely cannot let that question go. So the next day, he walks outside beside her and just casually invites her to grab some tea. They go sit together on this wooden bench, and for several minutes, they just sit there in total silence. No pushing, no pressure. And in that really safe, quiet space, trust starts to build. Until Grace finally, after 3 long years, actually hands the envelope over.
And as she hands it to him, she just whispers, "I think it's time." Ethan is honestly blown away by this massive gesture of trust, and he quietly asks if it's okay for him to read it. She nods. This right here is the absolute emotional peak of Grace's 3-year journey to that post office. She's finally letting someone in. She's finally letting this one piece of paper leave her hands. Section 2. The Revelation. Take a deep breath here, because what Ethan reads on that single page inside the envelope is going to completely flip everything we thought we knew about this woman and her daily walk. So Ethan carefully opens the envelope. The letter starts, "Dear Michael, if you're reading this, then I finally found the courage to send it." It was addressed to her son. The letter goes on to explain that 30 years prior, Michael had left home after they'd gotten into their biggest argument ever. In the heat of the moment, Grace was furious and she told him to never come back. She admits right there in the letter that she was just so angry. And true to her word, the very next morning, Michael packed up and left. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer agony of a mother's weight. Just look at how this escalated. One agonizing week of waiting slowly blurred into 1 month. That month stretched into an entire year. The police eventually got involved, and they did find Michael's car, but they never actually found him. And that awful, unresolved ending just stretched out into 30 years of her hoping he would eventually walk back through the door.
So, the crucial point is 30 years. Grace carried this exact letter for 3 decades. She told Ethan she wrote it the very day after Michael disappeared. Every single morning, she desperately wanted to send it, but she was totally trapped. She couldn't mail it because she literally didn't have an address. She didn't know where he was. Going to the post office was just the absolute closest she could get to reaching out to him.
Think about that. All that time, all those decades of carrying this heavy letter, all those daily trips standing in line, the entire 30-year wait culminated in her desperate need to just say 2 words, "I'm sorry." That was the whole shebang. That was all she wanted to tell him. It's such a visceral reminder of how crushing unresolved regret can be.
Sitting there on the bench, Ethan's hands are literally shaking as he folds the paper back up. It's totally silent. He looks over at Grace, who has tears welling up in her eyes, and he asks this really painful question. He says, "What if he never comes?" And Grace, with this gentle, hard-earned wisdom, just replies, "Then maybe someone else needed to read it."
Section 3, the ripple effect. Let's move to and see how this builds, because Grace's realization that her pain might actually help somebody else sparks a completely brilliant idea in Ethan. The very next day, he steps up. He asks Grace if he can make a copy of her deeply personal letter and pin it right up on the wall inside the post office for the whole town to see.
But he didn't just tack the letter onto the bulletin board and leave it at that. Right beneath Grace's heartbreaking message to her missing son, Ethan decided to add something of his own. He wrote down exactly 6 simple, incredibly powerful words to frame the letter for everyone walking in. He wrote, "Never wait too long to apologize." Our source material mentions that the second this went up, it was a real game changer. People were stopping dead in their tracks to read it. A lot of them started crying right there in the middle of the post office. People were immediately pulling out their cell phones, calling their parents, reaching out to old friends, and finally saying, "I'm sorry," after years and years of stubborn silence.
The impact of this one unsent letter was like a wildfire. Within just a few short weeks, the vibe of the entire town felt completely different. Families that hadn't spoken in years were reuniting. Old petty arguments were finally squashed. Neighbors were forgiving one another. Hundreds of lives were completely turned around, all because one woman had the courage to share her biggest regret.
Section 4, the final message. While all this beautiful, healing transformation is happening across town, one morning, Grace just didn't show up at the post office, and she didn't come the next day, or the day after that.
Ethan got pretty worried, so he went over to her little house. He found out that Grace had actually passed away quite peacefully in her sleep, but her story wasn't quite finished yet. Sitting right there on her bedside table, Ethan spotted a brand new envelope, and this one was addressed directly to him. Inside, there was just one final, tear-inducing sentence. It said, "Thank you for delivering the letter I never could."
Years later, that local post office actually became famous, but not because of its stamps or how fast it processed mail. It became famous for this massive life lesson. Life changes quickly, and sometimes tomorrow never comes. Grace's story reminds us of this universal truth. We've got to stop waiting to apologize. The pain of carrying around a heavy envelope for 30 years is just way too high a price to pay for pride.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. But before we go, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Who is one person you wish you could say "I'm sorry" to right now? Don't be the person carrying that envelope for 30 years. Take Grace's lesson to heart, pick up the phone, and make that connection today. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible material, and I'll catch you next time.